Rise, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We were going slowly, but we went quietly. Ms. Nardi, take a roll, please.
Here.
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 Here. Present.
Yeah. Thank you. Recognitions this evening, Dr.
Good evening,
Freitas.
honorable board members. Today we'll have recognitions and a brief presentation on blended learning. Good evening, board members. This is my favorite part of this meeting because we get to recognize, more importantly, we have the privilege to recognize the people that make this school an exemplary institution. And more importantly, honor the board's vision of being innovators. And in this case, is their teaching staff. Blended learning is an approach to education that combines digital educational materials and opportunities for interactions online with traditional in-person methods. Blended learning requires the physical presence of both teacher and student, with some elements of student control over time, place, path, or pace. Teachers implement 4 blended learning structures: the flex model, flipped classroom, playlist, and station rotations. I will now introduce math teacher and instructional technology coordinator, Mr. Kevin Davis, who will provide the board a brief overview of the blended learning program here at RB. Let's get up for Mr. Kevin Davis.
Thank you. Good evening.
So some of those things are going to be a repeat of what I'm going to say. Blended learning is a learning style that incorporates both traditional learning methods and digital learning to personalize and differentiate learning towards modern learners. Blended learning looks different in different courses and different content areas, but it shares the common thread of leveraging technology to provide support, independence, and personalization. Through blended learning practices, students are given more opportunities for remediation in their learning, but are also given more ownership of their learning path, place, pace, or time. In 2019, RB started their blended learning journey by piloting flex learning, where students who were meeting certain benchmarks were permitted to study independently outside of the classroom at teacher discretion. This pilot was interrupted by the pandemic, but we returned our focus toward blended learning last year and branched into 3 main styles of blended learning: flex scheduling, flipped classroom, and playlists. In a flipped classroom, much of the content dissemination is done through digital media, and time in class is spent on remediation and supported practices. In a playlist style, students are engaged in a multitude of mixed modalities to demonstrate learning and to be provided more support during their instructional time. Currently, 36 teachers are working towards reinventing what learning looks like in their classrooms to disrupt the traditional learning model and support students' academic achievement as well as their 21st century skills. Regularly, you can now see students' primary learning in the classroom look different. In world languages, instead of choral response and lecture, students can engage in a multitude of collaborative and independent activities while getting individualized speaking and listening time with the instructor. Instead of a math or science course being a lecture, students are provided time to get individualized support and data-driven instruction. In applied arts and health, students can complete work at a pace more tailored to themselves and engage in a wider variety of activities. Across the curricula, flexible learning allows students to experience a collegial level of accountability as they earn the ability to work independently of the classroom, allowing for even more individualized instruction and smaller lab groups. We look forward to continuing blended learning at RB and redesigning the learning experience to meet the needs of modern learners. And I thank you in recognizing the immense amount of work it takes for teachers to both physically change their resources and to creatively innovate student learning experiences.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
You have a couple teachers here with you tonight. I know Dr. Freitas is going to recognize. Do any of them want to add anything or share about their experiences with blended?
I don't want me to come forward
Sure.
so they can hear me on the.
Sure.
I was the head.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Melissa Gordon. I'm a math teacher. Sorry about that. I am actually a head of RB. I first started dabbling with a flipped classroom in 2016. So I was probably one of the first in the building to even look at a blended learning style, not knowing necessarily that's what I was doing. But rather I wanted to find a way of not stand up and give a bunch of geometry definitions because I felt like it was very boring and I wanted to do the fun stuff with my students. So I started in 2016 and mine has evolved ever since. I now do completely flipped in algebra, honors geometry, and AP Calculus BC. So all levels of learners from the regular level all the way up to our AP level, so.
And there's 36 classes, you said, currently?
36
36
teachers.
teachers, okay.
A multitude of classes, ranges from co-taught freshman courses up to our AP level senior courses, really everything in between as well.
Okay, thank you.
So how often then do students come back the next day and say, so I watched the lecture, but I didn't get it? Or where you have the opportunity to like hone in on something?
All the time. Every day is very individualized. You come into my classroom, students are sitting in groups that they've chosen because I want them to be comfortable talking to each other and working together. And I go around and I answer questions when they're ready for them. So a lot of times, I'll kind of get them started, come back and check on them. But the key is rather than me going over a question that only half the class has looked at, I might answer that same question 8 times in one class period, but I'm answering it when each student has had the opportunity and is ready to actually grasp that content and that concept at that time.
Another thing I'll add is when we think about that compared to the regular classroom, in traditional pre-calc when I used to teach it, it was usually about a 40 to 45-minute lecture every day relentlessly without pause. In that learning style, students, when they're not getting supported, when they don't know something in the lesson, they actually get less time to get support because they can't stop the whole class for just that one student.
Yeah.
Now when there's one student who's struggling, you could really hone in on them because you don't have to pause everybody else's learning in order to work with them.
Nice.
So the board, we obviously made contributions. So this grew, we picked up another, how many teachers this year from last year?
We had 11 teachers last year and we have 36 this year, so
Picked
it
up
grew 25.
25 teachers. And we do one prep day a quarter where they get PD.
Yeah, usually one per quarter is going to be either some work time to develop all of the resources or professional development. A lot of times it's about a half day of professional development, a half day of being able to just work, collaborate, discuss and develop resources, and then we've had summer curriculum hours as well.
Any other teachers want to share their experiences? It's okay. This is a good, not often that we bring teachers in front of the board, so please feel free to come up.
You do something different?
You don't have to.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Put it in.
Work together. One seat, you could sit.
No, it's okay.
Okay. We both do like the playlist style with our freshman world history classes.
Just introduce yourselves,
Oh,
please.
sorry, I'm
That's
Miss
okay.
Hallebeck, or Lillian Hallebeck.
And I'm Rachel Schoenhart. Hi.
So yeah, like I said, in our freshman world history classes, we do the playlist style, which is like, give students options to like either write or do something more creative, watch a video.
It gives them just a little bit of choice and autonomy to tackle assignments at their own pace. Never ever read and have a group discussion. So it's nice.
It's a way to like test different skills at different times with different groups of students, as well as like having the world history content.
Is this your first year or you're a second year?
First year.
First year, okay.
I tell you, from an administrative
Ms. Lott has a
standpoint, oh, I'm
question.
sorry, go ahead.
So, does it matter to you if all quarter or all semester a student picks one way to do, always picks the same thing on the playlist, or do you try and encourage them to, hey, you're really good at this artistic way, but let me see that, because I also want to encourage writing because that's an important part of, developing who you are and being a successful adult is to be able to present yourself and express what you need, not just artistically, which is important, but also verbally or written.
Yeah, so I have noticed that, and then the way that I try to counter that is through assessments, not necessarily making them choose a step in the playlist or like a way to go through it, but like assessing them.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of our playlists is that students do have to still complete all the assignments, but it's more of like the order that they
Okay.
get to choose it
Okay,
in.
that makes sense.
So writing, reading, it's all in there, so
They can
students
pick their
are
favorite
excellent.
first
So-
or
Yeah.
Exactly, but all
Learning
students are
material.
completing it just at kind of their own time.
Pace, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's been a huge growth for our administrative team as well as myself. I know I went into some classes this year to do evaluations, and they were doing blended learning, and it's not like the traditional, like, everybody's at the same pace, and the teachers, you know, or they're working in small groups. Like, it really is kids working at an individual pace. Teachers are moving around to see where kids are at. They're doing more frequent, shorter assessments to then see if there's kids that need additional support. So we're all growing together, but it's definitely a pretty cool journey that we're on. And so I want to commend Kevin and all the teachers. I know you're going to recognize each of them for their work. So thank you for what you're doing. We'll continue to support this initiative.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you for all the support that you provide for it.
Rachel, Lily,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. France. I'm sorry.
We're not done yet. Now, I'm gonna keep you clapping, okay? So now, first of all, I'm gonna recognize the staff members that cannot be, people have, family obligations, with their kids and et cetera. So I want to thank other 36 teachers. That's about a third of our teachers that are doing blended learning. I would like to thank Ms. Emma Giro, Ms. Sandy Chaika, Mr. Ian Robbins, Mr. Nick Kirby, Ms. Melissa Carmona, Ms. Christy Sterling, Mr. Sam Wise, Ms. Michelle Kaler, Ms. Kelly Holton, Ms. Sonia Rachik, Ms. KJ Blumberg, Ms. Val Astro, Ms. Kathleen Harsey, Mr. Phil McGovern, Ms. Allison Marsh, Mr. Mark Helgeson, Caroline Tomasek, Ms. Jessica Maritzin, Mr. Juan Tinoco, Ms. Margarita Acevedo, Mr. Lawrence Forberg, Ms. Jill McGrath, Ms. Jenna Osborne, Ms. Delaney Garrity, Ms. Laura Turk. We have Ms. Marcela Vega, Ms. Patty Sarkady, Mr. Mark Ori, Ms. Lauren Vara, Mr. Brad Vocek, and Ms. Danielle Delzati. And now for the staff members that could make it here, let's give it up for Mr. Kevin Davis. Mr. Davis, come on up. Ms. Melissa Gordon. Ms. Gordon? Ms. Rachel Watson? Ms. Rachel Schoenhart. And Ms. Lillian Holloway.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good
Thanks for
job,
coming
everybody.
tonight. Thank you. Do you have additional recognitions?
Madam President, that concludes the recognitions.
Okay. With leave of the board, I'd like to ask the Student Association to do their presentation. We have quite a few public speakers this evening, and I want to make sure they can get home and do their homework. How was that? Okay. They are often very brief. Come on up.
Let's reintroduce ourselves again.
Could you please?
My name is Emily Hernandez. I'm a senior. I'm the president. I just want to say thank you for having us again. Since we were last here, we had another pep rally. It was held on Wednesday, February 14th, between third and fourth period. It was a Valentine's Day prep rally, which was a lot of fun, and we all thought it went really well. We highlighted things like Black History Month, and we were able to display the dance that won third in state the weekend prior. The pep rally, it's always helpful in like raising school spirit and showcasing like our winter sports, at least for this pep rally. Also during that same week, we had our Winter Spirit Week, another excellent tool to keep us like moving forward till the end of the third quarter. We had a pajama day, beach day, Valentine's Colors Day, and then we participated in minority empowerment clubs, their own Spirit Day, so we did Pan-African Flag Day. It was like a class color competition. And that whole week was just a lot of fun, and we always look forward to hosting things like that.
I'm Bella Ventura. I'm also a senior, and I'm the vice president. Last week we held our second of the 3 blood drives we have. We have not yet gotten our totals on the amount of blood that was donated. We will update you that next time. But we did have around 90 people sign up to donate, which we're still working to get our numbers back up to what we had before COVID. But we're definitely getting there. And 90 is a pretty good amount of people signed up to donate. Though we did have a couple no-shows, 90 was the number of people that did sign up. Continuing, we have coming up our Pop Tops collection. We'll be collecting from April 12th to the 25th. RB's has been collecting for over 25 years, and in the past we have made it up to their Millions Club, and we've actually doubled that and in the past donated 2 million Pop Tops to the Ronald McDonald House at Loyola, helping families in need. That's where that goes, and we're excited to continue collecting donations, which is great. Hope we get a lot this year.
Hi, I'm Naomi Gallus. I'm the secretary on the exec board. So since we're toward the end of our quarter on March 8th, we will begin our notes of acknowledgement March 13th and 14th, where students have a chance to write a note to anyone on our staff team and just show that they appreciate them. Also, our next Spirit Week, or our next Spirit Day, is Thursday. It's March 21st. It is our Crazy Sock Day for World Down Syndrome, and we'll be teaming up with Best Buddies to promote it. We have something new this year. Our senior class officers have decided that they are going to plan a game night on Friday, March 8th from 6 to 8:30. There will be a $5 entry fee for activities such as dodgeball tournament, which advanced signups are this week during lunch, so you get a team together and then you sign up during their lunch period. There's also trivia, karaoke, there will be inflatable obstacle courses with waivers for all the guardians to sign if students want to participate in that. We are really excited for that night. We really hope to get a lot of students to show up. Are there any questions?
No, I don't see any.
Thanks. Good job.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. We can move on to visitor statements. I'm going to read our statement while our first speakers come up. I don't know if Ms. Buccio and Ms. White are leading off or closing.
I think we're after the speakers.
Okay.
The public comment.
So if public comment could come up, you could sign in on the sheet on the table. I'm going to read a brief statement while you get settled, and then we can get started. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages the participation of its citizens in the business of the school district. There are 2 points in the meeting where visitor statements are scheduled. Citizens are welcome to raise questions or make comments at either one. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and cannot be combined. Please note the Board of Education will not answer questions or engage in dialogue during visitor comments. If a person would like additional time to address the board, such a request should be submitted in writing 48 hours before the meeting to the superintendent. So we do have one of those scenarios this evening, but if you want to get started with public comment, please come forward. And if you could give us your name again for the record and sign in as well.
My name is Patrick Williams. I'm a professional musician, and my daughter is a sophomore at RB. I'd like to speak today. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate the teachers that were awarded tonight, and them advocating for co-teaching is actually what I would like to talk about today, specifically when it comes to musical ensembles at RB. Specifically, the jazz band and jazz ensemble being split this year has truly benefited the students and given all of them opportunities to grow and learn. I was blown away this month watching the performance of George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue by the jazz ensemble. They are to be commended for taking on this historic, challenging work of American musical genius. By having both Misters Baum and Loeb working with the students, they were able to achieve a fantastic performance. This music requires individual practice on the part of the students. It requires sectional preparation for every part of the ensemble. Finally, it requires the cohesive, collective ensemble working together to create a unit. Music teachers are especially adept at listening. Having 2 sets of highly tuned music teachers' ears benefits the students in ways both subtle and profound. When one student is having a specific challenge, a co-teacher working with that student individually allows the other teacher to help the rest of the ensemble progress. A co-teacher can run a rhythm section rehearsal to emphasize the nuances of swing and groove, while the director can work with the individual soloist on the complex concepts of harmonic development, call and response, and improvising. Imagine a math class where the teacher cannot proceed to the next equation until all of the students not only understand the problem, but can recite the correct answer in real time, in unison, or in harmony. This is what music teachers do. Imagine a cross-country meet where all the runners from one team are required to make the exact same stride at the exact same time in order to cross the finish line. Meanwhile, their coach is required to run with them, backwards, making sure none of them fall behind. This is what music teachers do. Musical ensemble performances are dynamic experiences. All of the individual and collective talents of the students are displayed in real time while parents, teachers, peers, hopefully administrators and members of the school board are watching. The performances are at the end of a very long process of individual practice and group rehearsal. All of our music teachers are truly capable and giving. We should be utilizing them for their talents, not having them supervise study halls. Our program will continue to thrive and grow if we invest in their abilities and allow them to help our kids to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jeanette Douglas. My family moved here and purchased a home in October of 2022. We're an active duty military family. The primary reason for purchasing this home was that RB has an orchestra. All of my children are involved in string orchestra. My family values having a dedicated orchestra teacher. We do not want him taken away for other duties. I hope this will always continue. I think that the RB music program is a strength to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Michael Casey.
And can you please sign in the books?
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Michael Casey. I'm joined also by my wife. We are music program parents. I'm here to voice my support of the Music Boosters' request to add a third full-time teacher to the music program. My son is a junior. He plays drums in the jazz ensemble. He also plays in the six-man band and plays at the pep rallies and at the basketball games. I also have a freshman here. She plays in a rock band. She plays guitar and drums and will be joining the jazz band in the fall. And we have a seventh grader that plays the bass and he's looking forward to playing here. My comments will be brief. Everybody else will present a more thoughtful presentation on the value, but I can tell you a personal experience. My son being in the jazz ensemble, he also plays lacrosse. And he explained to me that a good analogy is like an athletic team, mixing JV and varsity players together. So giving the entry-level kids the additional time and assistance that they need from the teachers, with the kids that can be presented with more challenging pieces, like the ensemble, it's like putting the JV and varsity kids together. So I thought that was, he explained to me, I asked him what his thoughts were, and he really likes the way the program has gone this year. That Mr. Baum and Mr. Loeb have been able to split duties and run those groups separately. So I ask your thoughtful consideration of the Music Boosters' request for that, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll ask again to sign in if you could, and I've been taking notes on who's, okay, thank you.
My name is Susanna Decker. I'm a parent of a sophomore here at RB. So I'm writing today, I'm talking to you today, to share my concerns about RB's music program. As you know, 25% of the students enrolled at RB are involved with the music program through one of the choirs, bands, or orchestra, or involved in the school musical or theater program. I have a current sophomore at RB who's involved in madrigals, a cappella. He participated in the radio show, and he's now participating in the musical. From a personal perspective, this experience has been life-changing for our son. We moved into the district just before John started 6th grade at Hauser. Several months later, the world changed. The pandemic became our reality. Here we were in a community that was new to us, new to him, just starting to make new friends and finding his way. So the pandemic brought so much angst for all of us, but it had a particularly hard impact on our children. And I'm sure everyone in this room is aware, there's a mental health crisis that is deeply affecting our teenagers. According to the CDC, 42% of high school students in 2022 reported feeling hopeless for more than 2 weeks and that they'd stopped engaging in their usual activities. While I know RB has a strong counseling program and supports in place for kids managing mental health issues, I don't think any school in our nation is equipped to handle the sheer number of students that need support. So why, you might wonder, am I bringing this up when we're talking about music education and making sure we have enough staffing for it? Well, music and the arts are viable tools for improving the mental health of our youth. Music helps our students connect with and regulate their emotions, build and sustain positive relationships, develop positive coping resources and strategies, improve their educational engagement and outcomes, explore and expand self-concept and identity. Our music and theater department supports our students in so many ways, even beyond learning to sing, to act, to play, or to play an instrument. We're fortunate to have 3 dedicated music teachers who want to be at RB. We have had the privilege of having continuity with all 3 teachers so they can help our children grow and develop as individuals as well as musicians. We have the classes and programs right now to support these 3 teachers. If we continue to shortchange and devalue these teachers, our programs will decline and our students will be negatively impacted.
30 seconds.
Sorry?
30 seconds.
Oh, for a district of our size, for the students enrolled in music and those future kids that will be coming in droves, to meet the call to action from the community who wants their tax dollars to support a robust arts program, let's make the right decision and make the small investment to fully staff this music program. This small investment will pay big dividends as it will make a mighty difference in the lives of all the kids in our community. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I don't interrupt your speech, I'll put my hand up when it's 30 seconds.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
I promise I won't
mistake.
get near it. My name is Joanne Conkey. I am the parent of 2 children, both of which are in the music department, representing swag. Our older kiddo, our son is 17, about to be 18, and is in the jazz ensemble, as well as wind ensemble. And so I asked him about how he felt having the 2 separate sections, and I shared my thoughts and his thoughts in a letter to fellow jazz parents. So I'm just going to read you that letter. You will hear me refer to you, the Board of Education, in 3rd person. Hello, fellow jazz parent. We are once again facing attempted cuts to the music department. The Board of Education is considering combining jazz ensemble and jazz band, and the ending of co-teaching looms large. When we have shown strong support for having 2 teachers committed to band and 1 for choir, they listened. Please reach out to them this week so they know we are strongly in favor of keeping 2 separate jazz classes and 2 band instructors who can co-teach. For our jazz student, he appreciates that there are 2 levels, so students can play more for fun or challenge themselves. He feels jazz is such a big genre that it's important that there are different levels so more people can and do participate. In favor of co-teaching, our jazz student feels that Baum and Loeb have different teaching styles which can help students learn better. As for us, the jazz parents, we feel the same in that 2 classes mean more access to participation and at different levels. We agree with our son that having 2 teachers is a big and essential benefit. It lets them go beyond getting kids the basics. It allows them to secure more varied and valuable experiences outside the classroom for a deeper, richer music education. And then I call them to action, checking out the petition and coming to this meeting and speaking out. So thank you for listening. I hope you agree with us. And we continue to have 2 separate jazz classes, because I think at least our kiddo and everybody he's playing with finds it extremely valuable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have additional comments? Not seeing anyone else.
Are you guys ready? Ms. Minardi, do you want to set up the PowerPoint?
Assist there.
We weren't sure if this is interactive and you ask questions or anything, or if you want us to just go through to the end, and then if there are any questions or comments or anyone wants clarification, we're happy to
Are you leaving us a copy of this? I'm assuming
It
this.
should be,
Ms. Nardi can share that with the board, and we'll put it in board book as
okay.
well.
I wasn't sure if it had been shared yet or not.
It has not.
No, because the board packet comes out last
Friday.
week, and so we'll get this tomorrow.
Oh, I don't know how it works.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure we had a copy in case people have questions.
Yeah.
It'll help us as we move forward.
So historically, Ms. Boucher, you have 10 minutes. I don't know if this will take 10 minutes, but if not, if there's questions, they could ask after.
Yeah,
Okay?
we should be just about 10 minutes,
Okay.
maybe a little over, but probably not.
Okay.
As long as we speak quickly. Okay, so my name is Liz Bushio. I have a sophomore here at RB, and I have 2 daughters who graduated and are in college right now, all 3 in the music program.
And I'm Maggie White. I have a son who's a junior in choir and the musical.
And I'm sure you all know or have heard, or maybe you haven't, but we have put out some information and started a campaign because we have been informed that the music program will be 2.6 full-time teachers again this year. At least that's what we were told a couple weeks ago. And we are hoping to impact that and make it 3 full-time teachers. And so we launched a campaign within the community. We put out some information to everybody, and we started a petition. And so right now, we're just going to give you some of the findings and the information that we came up with. With over 23% of our student body participating in music at RB, the students deserve to have 3 full-time teachers dedicated to music. Having fewer than 3 is stretching our teachers beyond capacity. Status quo is just not going to cut it. And while we know nothing is being cut, no classes are being cut, we get that, but curtailing teachers' hours is akin to cutting the program.
All right, so we have got to stop meeting like this. We've been on this road of cutting music teachers' hours for the last 13 years. We've come to the board year after year with our concerns, and last year when the choir teacher was going to be reduced to a 0.2 FTE, the parents of returning students weren't informed until May. We had to pull out all the stops and mount a full-scale campaign to plead for the retention of our choir teachers' hours. Without the retention of the 0.6, we would have really been hurting this year with 2 overworked teachers and no choir teacher because she would not have stayed for 0.2. Thankfully, the district was able to walk back its drastic cuts in teacher hours. Just this little bit of a reprieve has enabled our teachers to support expanding student interest in extracurricular music activities like a cappella. It got so big that they had to form 2 ensembles, and they're both very large ensembles. A new mariachi club has formed. This is a teacher-led, just like a cappella, with morning practices and performances at school concerts. RBHS also performed in the prestigious Chicago Thanksgiving Day Parade for the first time ever. This took tons of extra time and would not have happened at all if we had only had 2 music teachers. And there were a record number of RB students attending the Illinois Music Educators Association, ILMEA, district and state honor ensembles. And you may recall we've had a lot of students come through here who were honored and got a certificate. So we really had great representation this year. So while the 0.6 FTE kept our choir teacher here last year, we doubt it'll keep her here next year. And if we continue with the status quo of 2.6 FTE, we will thwart our students' progress very quickly, effectively cutting the program off at the knees and serving fewer students.
So you told us we need to up enrollment. and we listened, and we've been working hard to grow the program. And for the better part of the year, we've aggressively recruited at the feeder school level. We've reached out to teachers and administration at the feeder school. The RB teachers invited the feeder schools, choirs, bands, and orchestras to come to the high school and work with the high school students and participate in joint concerts, getting these future Bulldogs excited about music at RB. And for outreach, we've heavily recruited music and theater parents at RB and at the feeder schools. We have some actually that came to the meeting last night. They don't even have a child here yet. They're a Hauser parent with a child coming in the fall. So I was really excited to see that. But educating them on the difference their talents and voices make in our organization. And Labor Day weekend, we held our second annual potluck and jam session. Bunch of students performed, bunch of adults performed. It was at Kara and Pat's house. It was lovely. You guys will be all invited next year when we have it as well. You know, we're doing our best to educate students and parents also on just the idiosyncrasies of elective enrollment. There's a lot of kids at the feeder schools who have heard you can't take band with this, or if you're in marching band, you can't do a sport. None of that's true. We don't know where they hear it, but part of our ideas are, let's get some fact sheets out to them. So we really are trying to work with the feeder schools to increase enrollment. Social media presence has grown quite a bit. I think we're up to 900 following us on social media. We've raised more money for scholarships this year than we ever have in the past. And we've had an explosion of volunteers, which has been fabulous for the musical and the concerts and all of that. It's really been helpful. So your challenge worked. We were also told last year by the administration that the interest in music just wasn't there, and it wasn't enough to justify 3 full-time teachers. So we took it upon ourselves to do some research. We gathered data from similar schools. So I want to say a word about the number I have on here for RB, which is 385 enrolled in music. That's not unique students. That's the number of students that are taking music. So you've got students that might be in band and choir. So we count that as 2 because there are 2 students in 2 classes. That's where the 385 came from. But if you were to use 370, you're still going to get 23% of the student population in the music department. So the first 3 on there that we compared with, we were able to source that information. We were able to get the information we were looking for from these schools. They're of a similar size, and so that's why we picked them. The last 2 schools, Oak Lawn and Argo, are both single school districts, just like we are. They're very similar in size. But Oak Lawn, we were actually able to get the actual information about music. And Argo, I could only get what was online, which is fine arts information. So you can see the full-time teachers at all of these schools. They have more full-time teachers than we do. Oak Lawn is at 2.9 full-time teachers. Their student-to-teacher ratio for music is 117 to 1. Ours is 148 to 1. If you wanted to do it with 370, it's 142 to 1, still higher. So that's where those numbers came from.
So as you know, we launched a petition and an education campaign 19 days ago, and we have overwhelming support from the community. We aren't just a handful of parents asking for handouts for our kids. We took this issue to the community, and they have spoken loud and clear. Over 1,700 people signed our petition, telling the administration and Board of Education that RB needs and deserves 3 full-time teachers. We've had 770 of these signatures are actually District 208 residents. We've had 600 shares and promotions of the survey.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of people not only signed, but they made comments as well. And for everyone sitting who cannot see up there, we're going to read some of the comments for you. Melissa Keeby wrote, as an RB alum, very involved in the theater and music department, this would be very detrimental to the growth and development of these kids. The music and theater department saved my life in high school. A well-rounded education must include music and art. Do not deny these kids.
Music and the arts are just as important as every other subject. Music is some kids' reason for going to school. It is mental health, and it should be fully funded and staffed.
And then Melissa Obrook wrote, music is a vital part of a well-rounded education, and RB's students deserve to know that the arts are valued at their school. Continued uncertainty in this department is not acceptable. And Heather Nestler wrote, I'm sick of this being up for discussion. 3 full-time teachers are necessary. Michelle Montgomery said, I couldn't possibly say it better than the movie Mr. Holland's Opus. If you keep cutting the arts, sooner or later, these kids aren't going to have anything to read or write about. And the last person wrote, I would not be who I am or have the career I have without music education. It was critical to my childhood, and what I learned through music has carried me into adulthood. Music education teaches more than just how to sing or play, and teaches kids critical life lessons and skills. We also had 2 people provide us.
Everybody should sign this petition. Like, you know, I went to high school from 2016 to 2020. Me joining the RB Chamber Orchestra, you know, we were always having a different teacher all the time. And how is a student supposed to grow? You know, music is a second language in the world. Everybody should play it. You know, everybody can understand it. Sign this petition right now. Let's get a teacher going.
Philip Riegel here from Camargue Elementary School. As one of Riverside Brookfield's feeder schools, we are super excited to see parents and teachers really making a priority out of music at the high school level. We know that we look forward to sending all of our students up to the high school to participate in these wonderful programs and to keep art and music alive in our community. Thank you for all your hard work.
Okay, that's the 10 minutes, and the alarm went off, so.
Okay.
Is there
We
a-
have 2 more slides. Can we go or no?
Sure.
Yeah, I would say go ahead, but
Okay, yep, we'll make it fast. Go ahead.
Just basically, the community, 800 district residents and counting, are asking for appropriate staffing for the music program.
And our last slide, right here.
So, we were, very interested in hearing about co-teaching and the creativity that this district has shown. So we've come up with a staffing model that could work with co-teaching, and we think our kids deserve a fully staffed program. We will share this. You can see our thinking, but we appreciate you listening to us.
Well, and one more thing I want to add in. If our choir teacher's not a full-time position, she will probably leave. And after everything that's happened over the last 3 years, who would blame her? You may recall that last year we had a resident who had applied for that choir position. He came and spoke at the meeting. He proceeded to tell you that he was glad he didn't get the job. Like, let that sink in. The guy's glad he didn't get a job here. And he's glad the school didn't hire him. At the end of the day, this is about giving close to 25% of our students what they deserve. A fully staffed music program with high-quality teachers. You have the teachers. You just got to do the right thing to keep them. And ultimately, you guys are reporting to the community. This is what the community wants. So we're asking if you'll please listen to us. I'm sorry we're over, but thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. And Ms. Nardi is flipping back to the regular agenda? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher, for your assistance.
Thank you. So I will just say quickly, as part of the President's report, I want to thank everyone who's spoken. I think I've indicated to a number of individuals, and the board has talked about this. March is the meeting where we discuss staffing and sectioning in great detail. So I would ask on behalf of the board that the administration has some material available for us to kind of aid and assist with that discussion. I know we've gone through it before, but once again, a thorough review of what the process is. Who's in the room? How long does it happen? Who's at the table for these discussions? It's certainly not a single person decision. So if you can go through that whole process and how it works with the enrollments for each of the grades. And then I'll ask the board if they have any additional comments. But I think we're also looking for an update of the projected enrollment. I know there was a number raised tonight that does not align with numbers we've seen for enrollment in music and the electives. So I think what we'd like to see is the number of individuals signed up for classes regardless of number of classes.
Okay.
Right? I think persons in seats, which I believe is the way we reported out already, but if you could confirm that as we do it, that would be helpful. And then combined courses, we heard quite a bit about combined courses, and I know this has been shared with us previously as well, but it may be helpful for the board to have it all in one place. You know, there are multiple combined courses that are offered every day here at RB. Could we get that full list?
Okay.
So that was my working list of items that will help us in the discussion in March. Does anyone on the board have additional items?
If we can get the number of students, I think the number of students in those combined classes would be helpful also. So like the levels and then how many students per level are combined.
Got it.
Do we know how many students might choose a music after-school program as a club and not take any music classes?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure if we have the data on
Is that, are you speaking about like musicals and?
Like mariachi is a club, so
Okay.
maybe they do that because, you know, that's something they do at home or whatever. But they don't take any music classes. That might be, if that's data that we have.
I'll see if I can pull that. I should be able to pull club data. I don't know if it will be able to cross-reference with
Yeah.
Skyward of their student enrollment.
But we have seen club data before, you're right, just to see what that.
Some people
looks like.
might be like in a jazz band as a club, right? Is
You mean
that
the mariachi is a club, but
mariachi
don't
or
take
a cappella.
something during the day.
or the musical, that is, so some people that are in the musical may or may not even have a music class.
Correct.
Right, so.
Yeah, I think we normally get that report in midsummer, but if we can maybe dust off last year's or a version of it, that would be helpful.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Anything else that would help the board as we have this discussion in March? Anything from our student advisors?
I was going to say, if the board would like, I could communicate with some of my music department peers and try to find out like a rough estimate of how many students are enrolled in no music classes but the music extracurriculars, if that's something you guys would like.
I mean, I would suggest you work with Dr. Freitas and Dr. Skinkis. I think we most likely have that information.
Of course, we can get the club rest.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of the students who doesn't take any like music class, but I'm in mariachi band, so that's.
So we have one.
So there is an example.
Okay.
I'm one.
And so, just as information, why is that? Is it because you already know how to play the music and it's part of a culture and something you enjoy doing, or?
I like to sing a lot of my Latino music, so having that at school and being able to represent that within my school helps me a lot more to like meet other people because within my years of being at RB, I was never in music until my senior year, until mariachi, because I was able to connect and meet other peers who had the same interests as me within like that type of music or the writing of the music and the way it was presented by the different artists. So that was something that I think helped me a lot as a senior too.
Okay, interesting. Any other requests for the administration, just as we're kind of having this brief discussion?
Is there a definition on the difference between a choir and an ensemble? Like how many bodies? Because in the bigger picture of the music world, a chorus is many voices. There's also duets. Ensembles are typically smaller. So just if the music department instructors can tell us, like, this is what we consider the ensemble, this is what we consider
So we run,
chorus.
I know the one choir has like 30 or 35 in it, and then the other two are running, I think Madrigal's is at 18, and I think our middle choir has 19, but I'll have those numbers broken
Just
out.
so then if they want to start a new program, like if they want to start a new choir or a new ensemble, like what are the minimum numbers that they would need based on what they expect? Because I did my own research, but I just want to hear what they say.
That'd be helpful. Anyone else? Again, March is really our time frame for this discussion. The meeting's on March 12th, for those that have not looked at the calendar. Moving on, Dr. Skinkis.
Okay, February 14th, a site walkthrough occurred with Nicholas and DLA representatives in the Alumni Lounge, the Culinary Lab's future site. DLA will be working on a first round of drawings in mechanicals. A tentative timeline has been developed within our out for bid target in May. The board and administration have time to determine if additional financing is needed for this project or if we can use our current fund balance. We will have a better idea in late spring once we have finalized drawings from DLA and preliminary budgets from Nicholas. I will also schedule Liz Hennessy to come in, as I put in the Friday update, more towards April or May when we get closer on our drawings and projected budgets. There were 3 questions submitted. Do you want to address those when we get that agenda item on the kitchen? We can save those for then.
I think with the kitchen item.
Okay. Staffing update, Dr. Freyas has been working closely with the building administration and divisionals on staffing and sectioning for the next school year. A detailed report will be provided to the Board of Education at the March meeting. Some of the information being circulated, while helpful, is not comprehensive, so we will provide all of those details for all of our classes in March. I appreciate the advocacy. I encourage everyone to wait until March so we can have all the details in front of the board. Preliminary reviews look consistent with last year. Music numbers experienced a slight increase of about 10 students from the current school year. We have made a commitment to not impact the staffing for next year to make sure that they have a second year to bounce back from COVID. We are continuing to see an increase in students selecting career and technical education classes. We had 500 students sign up for culinary and 350 sign up for tech and engineering classes, which is awesome. The March board meeting will also provide an update on special ed, the special education program, our annual update on how that program, that department is doing. Finance Advisory Council met on February 20th. Finance Advisory Council meeting went through the 3-year financial projections with Dr. Smetana we'll touch on tonight, as well as the district's debt profile and various financing options with Liz Hennessy. Again, I think we'll talk about those, the debt profile and financing once we get later into the spring. There is a Personnel Advisory Council scheduled for February 29th, and there are no other updates on my report. I do want to commend the Fine Arts Boosters in their PowerPoint. We met last year in August and talked about some steps that we could take, to try to improve the numbers and grow the enrollment. And they have definitely put their best foot forward, and I hope that this will have a payoff as we go down the years down the road. We did some things this year to work with them to approve the field trip to New York early so that they could recruit kids that maybe wanted to travel. We gave them the first seat, the front row seat for that future Bulldog night. I heard a lot of good feedback from parents on that. So I do commend them for putting their best efforts forward, and I do appreciate that. And that concludes my superintendent report.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Skinkis. Dr. Smetana?
Good evening. Tonight I'll provide the Board of Education with financial information through the month of January, which represents 58% of the fiscal year. I'll begin with the monthly summary report, which shows that the total operating revenue for the month was $1,045,378, with 28% from federal and state grant reimbursements, 26% from evidence-based funding, which is our state funding, and 19% from our quarterly interest on investment payments. The total operating expenditures for the month were $2,425,496, with 72% towards salary and benefits, 11% on operations and maintenance, and that's primarily our liability insurance. We pay that once a year, always in January, and then 7% on special education tuition. In the monthly financial statements, you'll see that the summary of revenues shows that the district has received 49.8% of our budgeted revenue for this year, and that tracks pretty similar to where we were at this time last year. The summary of expenditures shows that the district has spent 59.9% of the budgeted expenditures for the year, and this is almost the exact amount that we spent at this time last year as well. As always, I've included the statement of revenue and expenditures for the month of January, both for our board accounts as well as the activity accounts. And then additionally, I have two other reports this month. First is the paid facility rental for second quarter, so that's October through December, and this is paid rentals, so this is the money that we've collected during this time. We are caught up to date. We don't really have any outstanding payments at this time. So at the end of the second quarter, or for the second quarter, the district collected $29,540.20 in revenue and expended $7,138. Of the revenue for the quarter, primarily a little over 60% of it came from facility space charges, with the majority from the pool, followed by the stadium and then the East Gym. So year to date, the district has collected $36,343.17 and has expended $9,402. The surplus for the rentals is used to offset costs related to the upkeep of the facilities, and this amount is tracking just a little bit higher than the amount of money that we brought in at this time last year, when you take into account the expenditures as well. And then lastly for tonight, I've provided the board with the annual financial projections along with the revenue and expenditure assumptions used to create the projections. It's really important to note that these projections are a snapshot in time and they're subject to the information that we have available.
Hold on one second, we're on page 32, there we go.
At this time of year, there's a lot of big ticket items that we don't necessarily have available. They're beyond our control. So for example, CPPRT remains double of what we used to receive prior to COVID. And we can't say for certainty how long that will continue. It certainly will be above what we got pre-COVID levels, but at this point it's just an estimate. Another big ticket item is evidence-based funding, which is our state funding. That doesn't come out until August, and we're Tier 1 right now, which means we receive more funding from the state, but 2 or 3 years ago we were Tier 2 funding and we received less money. So at this point we're just making a lot of assumptions on some of those things that are unknown. I do want to point out that you will see there continues to be a big discrepancy between fiscal year 25 and 26 on the next page, Miriam, please. And that is because we have some debt service coming off the books, and so what happens is in Cook County is that each spring we receive 55% of the prior year tax, even though our bond payments will be going down $2 million. And then what happens is they correct it in the fall, but for us that's a new fiscal year. And so that's why it shows that there's a big surplus in fiscal year 25, but then there's almost an equivalent deficit in fiscal year 26, and that's because the money that we collect in 25 has to go to pay off fiscal year 26. One way to stabilize this is for not only for the district and for the taxpayers is to issue a small bond payment for the capital project. We would be able to structure the debt payments in a way that gives taxpayers a break each year over the course of 4 or 5 years, but it's like a step down decrease, and so that would help stabilize the finances for the district as well. And it's just something to keep in mind when Liz Hennessy comes. She'd be able to go over that in more detail. But otherwise, like you'll see that swing, and then the following year it goes back up because we have 4 different bonds, and so some are coming off, but then some go back up. And so that's just one thing to consider when you're looking at projections. But I want to caution everybody, while it looks like it's a huge surplus next year, it's really just a timing issue, and we need that money to offset the big deficit the following year.
So just quickly, and for the board, if we have Raymond James come in April, what's the timing then, assuming we would move forward? We would still be able to do a debt issuance by the end of the year?
Correct.
Yeah, because we're talking about some of our bonds retiring, which then there is some savings to our families. If we go out for some bonds for some of our projects, we won't increase taxes and families will still be saving, but not at the same level.
The savings would be spread out over a few years. And Liz's presentation would go over the two different options of what that would look like for the board should they want to make that decision.
All right.
Any other questions?
Seeing none, thank you, Dr. Smetana. Dr. Freitas and student advisors, how do you want to do this today?
I'll let Joseph and Kayla go first.
Okay.
Starting off our student advisors to the Board of Education report. For teaching and learning in March, we have Friday, March 8th, at the end of our third quarter. And then for school culture and operations in March, we have March 1st, we have Women's History Month. And then on March 8th, we also have our game night, which is from 6 to 8:30. We will be having a dodgeball tournament. Make sure students register by March 1st. A karaoke, trivia, inflatable obstacle course. And the entry fee for that would be $5.
Moving on to activities and athletics for the month of February. On February 10th, we had the first indoor meet for girls track and field. February 22nd, we had the first indoor meet for boys track and field. And beginning this Thursday, February 29th, continuing through Sunday, March 3rd, the theater department is putting on their production of Guys and Dolls. I highly suggest you all go out and see. There's over 100 students involved in this year's production. Countless hours of in-building work, months of work overall went into this production. I will be serving as house manager for this, and I'll be greeting people, and I hope to see some familiar board faces. Moving on to the month of March. March 5th, we have the Winter Band Concert featuring Hauser Junior High at 7 p.m. And a correction to the report as put in the board packet. It is at the RB Auditorium, not at Hauser. March 7th, we have the Winter Choir and Orchestra Concert at 7 p.m., also at the RB Auditorium. March 9th, we have the first boys and girls water polo meets. March 11th is the first match for girls lacrosse. March 12th is the first match for girls soccer and the first girls softball game, which is at Ellert Park. March 13th, we have the first game for boys baseball. March 14th is the first match for boys lacrosse and girls badminton. March 15th is the first match for boys tennis. And March 20th is the first match for boys volleyball. Good luck to all of our spring athletes, and that concludes the student advisors report.
Thank you both. I think we can get that, Ms. Nardi can have that corrected before it's published, so the right location will be in there. Thank you, thank you. Dr. Freitas.
Good evening, honorable board members. So the quarter ends in 1 week, and I cannot be more proud of our Bulldogs and our teachers, for an outstanding 3 quarters, of the year. And I'm excited to go into fourth quarter and for other graduation and prom and other important events to celebrate with our Bulldogs. March 11th to the 15th, we will host the Illinois Science Assessment for juniors, grade 11, spread out through multiple days. Students are required to bring their Chromebooks charged, so Bulldogs, please bring your Chromebooks charged. For school coaching operations for the month of February, we've been celebrating Black History Month. This Friday, we have our Bulldog Blackout this Thursday and Minority Empowerment Shirt Day. So everyone's encouraged to wear black or wear your Minority Empowerment shirt. On the 28th, tomorrow, we have coffee with the principal at 9 a.m. All parents, community members are invited. March 14th, we have our Race and Equity meeting, 6:30 p.m. in room 201. And just to echo what Joseph said, I will attend personally Friday, but please, folks, come and attend our musical. I mean, it is Broadway level, outstanding performances, double casted. Tickets for students and seniors are $10. For general admission is $15. The shows Thursday through Saturday begin at 7 p.m. and on Sunday begins at 2 p.m. And folks, that day Friday's going to be very busy. We have the sectional finals. We also have the play here. So I had an opportunity to speak with the music and theater parents. You know, I encourage things like, you know, carpooling, dropping off your students. The staff lot does open at 6 p.m. and they have it to 6:45. 6:45 we have to open it, you know, to the families that are coming for the sectional game. So I encourage everyone who's coming to RB to watch the play to arrive early, please. There's gonna be a lot of energy here on Friday at RB. And that concludes my principal's report.
Thank you, Dr. Freitas. We have an update on the district goals.
The chart is included. I have the administrators are marking whether they're ongoing, in progress, or completed. There were no questions submitted, so I think we are moving in the right direction on these.
Okay, no questions from anyone? I'm looking. Moving on to additional discussion items. I mentioned my request for the next meeting. Does anyone have any additional discussion items? Laura, I know you wanted to mention the
So we
next
have
week.
our ISIB meeting, Illinois Association of School Boards. The topic is women in leadership, and I wanted to extend an invitation to our student board members. So if either of you are interested in coming to that dinner, the topic is women in leadership and education. You are most welcome to come. Just let Dr. Freitas know.
And it's next Wednesday at 6 o'clock here.
Yeah. Okay, so we should.
No, thank you. Good reminder. Anyone else? Seeing none. Consent agenda. We have the student registration fees for 2024, 2025. I don't think we had any questions, so this is a consent item.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, takes the following action on the listed consent agenda items. Approves the student registration fees for 2024-2025 school year as presented in the February 27, 2024 board agenda packet.
Second. Second from Ms. Locke. And we need a roll call.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Slack?
Yes.
Mr. Novak?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Life safety items, capital improvements, and sustainability, including the NANIA contract for solar panel consultation.
No update on that. Based on the direction we got from the board at the last meeting, the priority will be to look at the culinary lab first, and then look at the solar project. So until we know what the finances look more like for the culinary lab, we'll hold off on the solar panel project.
And we also want to know about the bonds, right? So if we can do
Correct.
something with the bonds, that will also.
Right, but we are just pacing that to wait till we get drawings and preliminary budgets.
Okay.
And then we know, can we do the solar panels at the same time as the kitchen this summer so that we save money on the Nicholas side of having them manage two projects instead of doing it two different times.
Right.
So we talked about that last time. I think we didn't say prioritize one over the other so much as we need to allow some time for the things Laura just mentioned to kind of work themselves out. So.
Okay.
And it's now the point, there's been some question why we're prioritizing the kitchen. And, just to articulate, I think we've talked about this, that we've got 500 students that are looking to be in a culinary class. That's also the opportunity to offer dual credit with Triton. Many of the culinary courses will go towards certification where students can actually find employment right after high school. So I know we've read some emails and people are wondering why are we going in that direction, but it meets all our district goals of looking into trades and alternative paths for our students, dual credit, and opening up different options.
So on tonight's agenda, we do have the preliminary design agreement. So I think that would get the ball rolling on the work from the consultants to understand some of that costing and everything else. I don't want to jump too far ahead on the agenda. I want to keep it, but we can go to it. It's under new business, the new culinary lab. Let's kind of flip-flop those and have that discussion.
What page is it on, Mary Ann?
I'm sorry.
Is
What's
that next on the agenda?
Kristen,
Well,
what'd you say?
the varsity cheer summer camp was next on the agenda, but we
Do
could.
that, that's fine.
Okay. You sure? Okay. I thought you were jumping right ahead to culinary lab discussion.
No, I've got to learn to use my Chromebook better.
Okay. You're So I think we're on
Dr.
page
Freitas, want to
40.
speak about the chair?
Yeah, so in July, our cheer team, they want to go to the National Cheer Association Summer Speed Camp in Carthage College in Kenosha, Wisconsin. This does not need to be approved tonight, but I would hope the board, supports this opportunity as the board has in previous years. But this is a good trip for our girls to improve the technique, to build, to build their team, to build the spirit. And I'm excited for the girls to continue growing and developing, to be outstanding cheerleaders.
So that's a first read?
Yes, first
and
read.
If anyone has any questions, they can submit them
I
for
just
next
had
meeting.
one question, maybe I didn't see it. I saw there's one teacher or coach going on the application. Are chaperones, or do they take like spotters or additional people beside the coach?
So there will be additional people.
Okay.
Yes.
They're just not on the application?
Correct, yes. There'll be additional people.
All right.
I believe we have 2 cheer coaches anyway.
Yes.
It says on the form that there's going to be 2.
It says that, okay.
It does,
Yeah. We have Coach Vara, Coach Schroeder, and Ms. Sapochi.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So we can move that to consent calendar. Well, if someone has a question, they could submit it, but otherwise we'll address it at our next meeting. And now on to the culinary lab preliminary discussion.
Yeah, District 208 has a culinary lab accommodating 25 to 27 students per period. This lab does not have the mechanical capacity to accommodate an upgrade to a commercial kitchen, which could be used for higher level culinary classes, including dual credit. The administration has seen a steady increase in student enrollment for culinary classes. In 23-24 school year, 92 students were not allowed to take their elective and were asked to choose their second elective due to the lack of lab space. Initial requests for culinary classes for the 25-24 school or 24-25 school year are now over 500. So the goal is to convert the alumni lounge into a second culinary lab. Those of you familiar with the alumni lounge, it butts up to our current culinary lab. This would accommodate student interest. It would also have commercial equipment, so higher level culinary classes can earn dual credit. So it's not strictly just putting in a dual credit lab or a commercial kitchen. It will really be a second foods lab for all of our foods classes, and this lab will have the capacity in the mechanicals to put in some of the commercial equipment so we could run a higher level class or 2 in there to get the dual credit. Attached is the first draft of the MOU with DLA, the district's architect and draft agreement with Bolter, a kitchen consultant. Dr. Smetana will answer a few questions that were submitted on that. To assist with the design of the space, these documents are in process of being reviewed by the district's legal counsel and the administration. Again, projected costs are $3 million. We've moved it to the alumni lounge. There's some things we're looking at, so the goal is obviously to come in below the $3 million, but we wanted to make sure we prepared the board for worst case scenario. The board and administration have time to determine if additional financing is needed or if we can cover this out of our fund balance. Again, we'll have a better idea late spring once we have finalized drawings from DLA, and Nicholas can circulate those out for some general quotes before it goes out to bid to give us an idea of what if we need to do cost-cutting measures or where we kind of stand. I'll turn it over to Dr. Smetana to answer the few questions and to comment on the documents that are included.
The first question was in regards to the master agreement, which dates to 2013, and the question was when the last time it was reviewed. The last time it was reviewed is when we entered into the agreement with DLA. The master agreement is based off of an AIA contract, which is the American Institute of Architects, and they only update their AIA document every 10 years. So a new one has been released, and we're trying to work with DLA to see if we can have our attorneys go back and forth and get it in a timely manner so we can use it for this project if possible. So that's where we're at right now in the process with that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I just think it's good practice to look at an agreement.
Yes.
With some frequency.
The next question was what was the plan for the current kitchen space? I assume the reference is the little kitchen behind the alumni lounge? Or I wasn't 100%
Well, I guess my
sure.
question was, does this replace the other one, or this runs, and I think Dr. Skinkis answered it, so they both run together.
That was a very different question, so yes.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if this replaces it, because the one we have now is a domestic kitchen. This is commercial, but would also be able to do the more domestic-oriented
Yes.
classes? Okay.
Yes. And we
That
need
was
them-
my
we need
understanding,
them
but I wanted
both.
to clarify. Okay.
It's not just a matter of getting a new updated space. We need 2 spaces to accommodate the student requests.
Okay.
The programming currently held in the Alumni Lounge, what will happen to it? The Alumni Lounge is not the most popular space to be checked out and used for programming, but it is used. So we plan to divide the faculty cafeteria into 2 spaces, a staff lounge and cafeteria, and then a meeting space to replace the Alumni Lounge. And the 2 spaces will have like a divider like the room does all the way down at the end of the hall that's used for study hall. So when we need one big space, we can open that up. And when we need 2 separate spaces, it will serve as that purpose.
Okay.
And that will primarily be a cosmetic project that, just repurposing some things. And then the last question was, what process did DLA use to select Bolter? And what's their prior school experience? So Bolter's a really big name in the industry, and they've been used on a lot of different projects, both with DLA and through K-12 colleges. They have a lot listed on their website. And then they have a lot of other experience outside of that, like the Museum of Science and Industry, Georgia Tech. There's a lot of big projects that they've done. But to me, what's more important is we have done a site visit at Leiden, and it wasn't designed by Bolter, but Leiden had all of their equipment is Bolter, and then the person that designed Leiden's kitchen retired, and he was the one who made the personal recommendation to use them. And the reason that I bring up Leiden is because it is the only school, I believe, in the cooperative that is approved for dual credit culinary classes. And so that's why we did the site visit at Leiden, and that's why it's important to make sure we understand what has gone on there. Additionally, our district's construction manager, Nicholas and Associates, is currently working with Bolter in another school district right now as well, and has had a very positive experience with them.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I was just looking at the pictures they put on their brochure that were not particularly school-like.
Yes.
And so I was just raised the question. Thank you.
Wood burning pizza oven would be a little too much.
Right, I think.
Well, we will not have one of those.
Okay, I just want to assure anyone looking at this packet that this group does have experience.
That's what I said. Like there is a sect of their company that just does schools, but they promote on their website a lot of other very notable projects that they've done. Were there any other questions at this time?
This is the first read, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions? Looking?
I just have a question. I've read it. Can you tell me the timeline? We're looking at starting construction.
The goal is to go out to bid in May.
And construction to start
do demolition this summer.
Okay.
And then we think one of the things that could help us save some money is that they can work on it during the school year, because there's no classes in the Alumni Lounge. And if they're doing equipment installation, some of those things.
But fall 25 could be the opening potential?
Well, we put the pressure on the architect for January of 25 to see if we can get in their second semester.
That's amazing.
That's, I mean, it's wishful thinking. It's most likely fall of 25.
That's what I was wondering as I looked at it.
The goal is fall of 25.
Incredibly.
We're trying to.
But if we could do
January,
January, then we could get students dual credit next year. So that's why we're.
And it's a great goal. I just.
But it might not be possible.
The 500 students, we're going to have kids rotating. One day they'll be in a classroom, one day they're in the kitchen, so they're not going to be able to cook each day.
Sure. Which is, what
But we turned 100 kids away last year. We didn't want to do that 2 years in a row, so we're working on like a Band-Aid solution until this is done. But we figure if we could do the saw cutting of the floor and run the plumbing, and do some of those things.
Right.
You can install a sink without disturbing the classroom.
That was my. You're telling me what I want to hear. I also am thinking it sounded ambitious, so I wanted to hear that this was actually the goal. Okay.
Yeah. Once we have a design, we'll have a more concrete timeline.
And Mr. Novak, you went on some of the site visits and walked. Is there anything?
I think having it where we're going to put it in the new spot next to the kitchen helps, because we're going to use some of those air ducts, correct?
Yep.
And be able to use that. Now that kitchen that's behind the alumni lounge now, will that disappear? That's not really like a kitchen, it's just kind of like a...
No, that's what I was asking about.
Yes, that will,
That'll go away.
you're talking about like the little like
Coffee,
kitchenette.
yeah.
Yeah, that will
That'll go
be
away.
used for storage. That will be repurposed.
Oh, you're talking about the little,
Yeah,
yes,
that kitchen like that teachers use.
Yes,
Right, so we put that
kitchenette.
like for our
Yeah.
our fridges and freezers or storage for that classroom, correct. But
That's
we can
basically
type
be in
up-
the faculty cafeteria.
The goal is to try to saw cut off of that plumbing line.
Yeah.
Put the sinks in for the sanitation stations. And those are some of the things we can't fit in that other lab, like a sanitation station, commercial stove. We're gonna get one commercial stove, not 12, you know, but.
And that initial $3 million number came from if we were going to build it on the other site, correct?
It was, and it's also square footage, but, you know, the good thing about having a construction manager is they kind of, you know, they both cost out different things and talk about different things. So that was like just strictly a dollar amount per square footage. But now that we know our exact room and square, I do think that number will hopefully come in better than the 3 million that was.
That's the goal.
So then next year, we're still looking at turning down students for foods classes.
No, next year, what we're gonna do is have them use a
Or
classroom.
because they're switching off.
They're gonna switch off.
So
right.
none will be turned away, or
The
hopefully?
goal is not to turn away any kids next year.
And these are semester-long classes?
They are.
And then it's foods 1, foods 2, pastry,
Foods 1, Foods 2, baking and pastry.
and dual credit?
And then the hospitality and advanced food.
And how many, what's the progression? So like, how many sign up for foods 1? And then what's the drop off for foods 2? What's the drop off for pastry? And where do we end up with dual credit?
Okay, I'll have that in that chart for next week.
Okay. And then also, sorry, one more request. I know I've asked for this in the past, but can you also put together some information on the number of students who do post-secondary enrollment, and how many of them go to a 2-year school, and how many of them go to a 4-year school? I know I've asked for this in the past, and I want to go back and look at my notes, because it's been like a few months ago.
Reported out every October? That gets reported out, I think, every October, so that should be easy to pull.
Correct, so we should have that now, and I think when I asked for it, it
It's-
wasn't October, it was like August, September. But if the clearinghouse report is already out, and can we have that for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, just so that we could see the trends? To see if there's been a significant number of students going to a 2-year versus a 4-year?
Clearinghouse report. Is that
Does
specific?
that get pulled to the report card, or that's a separate?
That's a separate report.
think it's
separate.
Clearinghouse report, 3-year historical.
Sure, that works.
2-year versus 4-year.
Yes. So like post-secondary enrollment total, and then if you can break that down into 2-year and 4-year.
Does the clearinghouse report separate vocational schools as opposed to 2-year colleges?
It might
It might not.
what their major is.
Yeah, many of those are 2-year, even when they are vocational, if you're talking UTI or Wyotech in the auto
But
industry.
they will tell you what schools they went to. So like they'll tell us how many of the 2-year students went to Triton and how many of the 2-year students went elsewhere. They'll also tell us where the 4-year students went.
So some of our 4-year some students will take advantage of cost savings and go up a 2-year to get their gen eds and matriculate into a university to get that 4-year degree. Whereas some students are looking at programs that are 2 years, or 2-year certificates, which is very different. So those numbers might be off just a little bit for us to consider.
Yeah,
I think it's a place to
sure,
start, though.
Sure, there's a good chance to be off.
Yeah, the numbers are only going to tell you what they're going to tell you, which is what we
How
heard
many
when they
kids
left
filled
here.
out? Right.
Because it doesn't tell us what they do beyond, because we don't have the ability to properly, or to,
I just want to see the starting point.
That's what I said, like if they went to Washburn or Kendall, those are known schools of
Kendall
trade
doesn't
schools?
exist anymore.
And I'm not even at, Kendall
you're
is
just
part of
using it for
National Lit.
staffing,
I'm not using it for culinary purposes.
That was just what I knew.
Right.
I'm asking in general because I've asked for it before, and since we're about to get deep into the numbers conversation, I want to know what's what, where we're going, where our students are going.
So you don't want, you asked for it before, you don't want to go back to your notes, you'd like to have that again?
I'd like to this time get it. Yeah, thank you.
didn't
We
want-
never got it.
All right, I'll check on that. Okay. But yes, I will have that included.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's not that I'm not looking, it's that it was never sent.
Okay. Visitor statement, second opportunity. Looking around. You're more than welcome to come on up. If you could sign in, please, be appreciated.
Hello, my name is Ann Sokol. My son is a senior at RB. And I just, in listening to the conversations, I just have a question with the culinary. I see it listed as a lab class. And I'm trying to figure out what the numbers and what the difference is. My son, music is like his passion, it's his love. RB's definitely created that in him and nurtured him in that way. But when I think of the music classes, I don't know what the highest number enrollment of students is, but I know it's well over the 23, 25 that they had listed on the lab class for cooking. In my personal opinion, I feel like there's a lot more diversity in meeting students at where they are in a music class versus a culinary class. Of course, students will be at different areas based on their experience, but I feel like personally that a music class should be classified as a lab class because of course a teacher is going around and working individually with each of the students at some point throughout the class. So I just lift that up that I don't know. I know currently the only class listed music-wise as a lab class is studio music class. My son participated in that. He's participated in marching band, jazz band, rock band, studio music, and he would have liked to have done the AP music theory class, but this year was one of those years that it was an offer. He did in fact have an interest in culinary classes as a backup. It was not his first choice of a class. And as it turned out, because of some other scheduled things, he was unable to do that and he had to switch away from that. But I would really ask the board to think hard on what defines a lab class. Currently, I know the numbers on how we have the teachers come from how many students we're allowing that teacher to work with. And I think if we're treating classes equally or treating experiences equally, that number really does matter on how many students are allowed in the class. I looked up on the school report card, the average at RB is 26 students per class. And I know, of course, when you're singing, when you're working with instruments, there's a side that would say, of course you can work with that many students, but to really progress them in a way that they're continue to learn, that's far too many students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have that included in the staffing report, how they come up with 25, 30, and 40.
Can I ask one quick question? I swear to God. I know there's a language requirement coming up in 28, 29, where students coming in will have to take 2 years of language. And I'm just wondering if you guys have asked the question, would the culinary numbers be that high once we hit that year when students are going to have to take a foreign language? So just something to consider.
Thank you.
In all this.
Okay. Consideration of items for future meetings. Does anyone have anything else to bring up at this point? I think we've jumped around a little bit, but we're in good shape. Matters for closed session, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, student discipline, individual student matters, purchase, sale, or lease of real property, probable imminent or pending litigation, collective negotiations, and school safety.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering the closed session matters as presented in the February 27, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second. Second from Ms. Locke, and we need a roll call.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Stroska?
Yes.
Ms. Lack?
Yes.
Mr. Novak?
Yes.
Mr. Dunbar?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Mrs. Zay?
Yes. Okay.